you wanted the war. Now you wanna talk. Before you wanted the war. Now you wanna talk. Before you wanted the war. Now you wanna talk.
Alright, this weekend, got a fight coming up. Mr. Roy Jones Jr., Mr. Legend, Mr. Previous Pound for Pound, Mr. Knocked Out Cold in 2 of his last 3 fights. Mike, should Roy Jones even be fighting at this point? He's not fighting a real high-class guy, but is this a fight he should be taking, or should he retire?
Well, as far as whether or not he's taking it or not, it's typical boxing. Guys having a hard time letting it go, so it really doesn't surprise me with him taking another fight, just seeing how much he has left in the bank. Do I personally think he should take it? Nah. At this point in his career, he's 37. All the physical advantages that made him Roy Jones are pretty much gone. I think that's been obvious his last 3 fights. He really has nothing to prove for division weight, well, for weight division champion. He avoided some big fights during his prime, but nothing that can be done about there now. So he really just be cattle fodder for any top flight super middleweight to light heavyweight he'd be fighting now. So there's no need for him to become a journeyman and just another name on some of the upstart guys' resume. So I'd say walk away while you still have some faith. You didn't get knocked out in your last fight, which obviously was your goal. So
right.
Take that and walk away from it and move on.
Right, I agree. I think Roy is past his prime. As far as this fight, obviously I've never seen Prince Badi fight. I don't know who outside of his family has. But I think if Badi employs a strategy that Glenn Johnson employed, you know, he has a good shot. Roy is probably a much better athlete. He could easily win this fight, but what does it prove?
That he could be Badi.
You know, I think Prince Badi, he fought Rico Hoye and survived with him. He's been in with a few other decent guys.
Contender favorite, Bonsante.
Right.
Who
hasn't gotten.
He had a draw with, right?
A draw, exactly.
Okay. He was just knocked out in, I think, 6 rounds by Allen Green.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Eric, I know Roy's one of your favorites. What's your pick?
Well, man, you know, my pick, along with a lot of other picks, are going to be based on what Roy has been able to do in the past. You know, hard to let go of some of those, you know, memories that he's given us. You know, that natural ability of his. You know, we have to assume that, you know, he's going to go in there, outbox Ajamu. Never seen the guy fight. He looks in good shape. I don't know. He's only been beat twice, both by decisions, a majority decision and a unanimous decision. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Jones by decision in this one. You know, I'm not going to be surprised by any outcome, by any means.
I've got Mosley-Vargas II. Eric, what are your thoughts on that fight and how it played out?
Well, we saw a lot of the same Mosley, I think, as we did in the first fight, just with a little better improved footwork, movement, great effective punching. Vargas couldn't get anything rolling, couldn't get any momentum going from the first bell. You know, he plodded forward as was expected, but as in the first fight, he was plodding forward and throwing body shots. He was throwing more punches.
He seemed to take the punches better too.
Exactly. You know, in this one, he seemed extremely flat with a perfectly placed left hook in the 6th round. You know, dumped him in the middle of the ring. Moments later, stop.
Right, and I was surprised. I had picked Vargas, knowing that Shane could very well win, has a better skill set at this point. But in the first fight, Vargas came on strong. He did a lot of work to the body. I thought he would do that, but he really just looked shot. And at this point, I don't think it's in doubt in anyone except maybe Vargas has got that fighter mentality. But I think he needs to hang him up, call it quits. If nothing else, do a boxer's retirement. Leave for 3 or 4 years. You know, he's a young guy.
Right.
Maybe 4 years down the line, if he gets that itch, you know, he can come back.
What's that win do for Shane? Well, it definitely puts him in a new tax bracket. You know that as far as him still being the elite guys, his name always stayed in the mix relatively. He had a couple setbacks, but at least he had his setbacks to other world-class fighters. With Shane, the skill is always going to be there, so I think he'll be pretty much competitive with anyone he fights. I'm not going to totally be bamboozled by what I saw last Saturday. A lot of their points were correct. So did he look exceptionally well because of the opponent? I think so. Will he do anybody else like that? I doubt it. I think he can be competitive with everybody. Probably go the distance with Floyd. Probably more advantageous for him to do it at 54 as opposed to 47. Margarito and him is a good match. Probably a 50-50 fight because of Shane's experience and speed, Margarito's youth and endurance, and possibly a Corey Spinks fight at 54. I think Shane has to be considered at least even money in most of those fights. I don't know if I consider him the favorite in any of them, but you know, he can stick around for a couple more years.
Baldomir-Gatti, somewhat of a shocker. I think the fashion he did it. Mike, what do you think about that outcome?
Hey, just watch it. It's kind of hard to watch. Always been a fan of Gotti. Typical Gotti fight. He went out on the shield swinging. I think it's kind of another case similar to Roy Jones and Vargas that we just touched upon. We're just talking about a guy with a lot of mileage on him who's been in a lot of tough fights. And it just looks like it eventually caught up to him. Maybe the 147-pound limit was a little bit much for him, but I mean, I still don't have any regrets on my pick. I thought Gotti had enough in the bank to beat Baldomir. He's not a world beater at all, but I think the weight probably caught up with him. He was naturally stronger than him. I think the previous tough fights caught up with him, and much like Vargas, I think it might be time for Gotti to start thinking of something else to do. There's no reason to stick around and be a walking man.
Right, exactly. So that brings up, you know, got to retire, you know, and my thoughts on that are he's given so many fans more memories than, you know, 10+ fighters can in their entire career combined.
Definitely.
You know, but you know, during his career he's taken so many shots, you know, and he's taking them now. He took them before, he's taking them now, and you know, that's what made us love him, you know,
right.
The blood, guts, and tears that, you know, Gotti provided for us. But it takes a toll, and you know, he really should, in my opinion, retire while he still has, you know, his physical and mental faculties now. So get out while you can. We'll see if he makes it to Canastota. If he doesn't, then the way his career was moved and managed should, you know.
Right, and I think he probably will make it. He's not the greatest fighter around, but I think a lot of times with the Hall of Fame, I mean, obviously he's a multi-division champion,
right.
But the era of the 90s and the 2000s, you really can't define that era in his weight classes without including him.
Right.
He was such a box office draw. He, you know, was in so many fights of the year.
Right.
You know, I think that you got to include him. There's probably some other better guys that have been left out, but you got to go with achievement and also the impact that he had on the sport.
Definitely.
When an opponent, Carlos Baldomir, just kind of come out of nowhere. Since beating Zab Judah, now he beats Gotti. That puts him in a good position to make some money. You got Floyd Mayweather out there on the horizon. You got a guy like Margarito, who's everybody's going to avoid, you can possibly fight. Depending on what Ricky Hatton does,
right.
If he decides to move back down or what, that's a possible fight. So I think he's definitely going to cash in. He hasn't lost a fight in, what, 6 years? 6, 7 years.
Right.
Not the best physical fighter, but he has that heart, he has that will. So, you know, he can shock a lot.
And heart means a lot in this game. So a lot of fighters say this game is 90% mental. So that mental toughness is going to keep him competitive for a lot of guys.
Yeah, you know, and you know, if Margarito so feared, you know, looking for somebody to fight, I'd love to see him fight Baldomir.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it'd be a good fight.
Right, exactly. I mean, 2 pressure fighters.